Hello, my name is Logan Sauer. I'm an intern here at Ottawa National Wildlife Refuge. I'm currently at the pond right across from our visitor center. Today, I'm going to be giving you step-by-step instructions on how to paint a wetland sunset. Okay, so before we get started, what you'll want to do is line whatever surface you're going to be working on with paper or plastic. You're going to need a blank canvas. This is a 12 by 16 canvas. You can buy any size you want and adjust the proportions as needed, or you can use paper. For paint, you're going to want blue paint, red paint, yellow paint, black paint, and white paint. You'll need a couple paper towels for drying off your brushes, a plastic dish for mixing your paints, a cup of water for washing your brushes, and for brushes, I don't want to be too particular. Just find whatever you can. But for today, I'm going to be using a large square paintbrush, a small square paintbrush, a round tip paintbrush, and then a fine tip paintbrush. Okay, to start off, I have divided my canvas in fours so that you can keep track of where I am on the canvas. So first you're going to want to mix blue and white to create a lighter blue. Kind of like that. When we start the sky, you don't want too much paint on your paintbrush because we want the background to dry as quickly as possible. So going across the top of the canvas, you're going to want to create an arch and only paint left and right, never go up and down. And you want to kind of create a feathered edge at the end so that we can fade into the next color. We're also going to use the light blue on the bottom of the canvas. So now that the blue is set, we're going to create orange using a mixture of yellow and red. When mixing the color, you're going to want to use a little bit more yellow than you are red. Now that we have our orange mixed, we're actually going to take half of this and make peach using the orange that we made and white. So right under the blue, we're going to go in with the peach. Very lightly. Because if you get too close, it might turn into green. And same thing for the bottom. Okay, now to blend these two, I'm going to go in with the big brush, a little bit of white paint, just a little bit on the tip, and some water. So just dip it real quick, brush it off, and hopefully this will give us a kind of faded effect. And same thing for the bottom. Okay, and then after those two are blended in, we're gonna go in with the orange that we made earlier, right underneath the peach. Okay, and then we're gonna go in with just a little bit of water to blend the peach and the orange on the top and the bottom. And then we're gonna go in with yellow. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the background. I would let it sit a little bit and just make sure it's all dry before we start the next part. So now we're going to work on the sun, and you'll need a mixture of yellow and white, and then you're just going to want to create a dome shape on the horizon. So now that your sun is set, I would just take some yellow and add it to the edges so that you can get a more defined line. Okay, so at this point, your background and the sun is done. So now we're just gonna be working with black. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna define the horizon line with a tree line. So the bottom, you're gonna wanna make it as straight as possible. So just take a little bit at a time on your smaller square brush. And we're gonna go ahead and start here in the middle and just make really thin lines. Now once we have that, we're going to be taking our round large brush, and you're going to want to fan it out a little bit like that, and just put a little bit of black on there, and then we're going to dab some trees. And you're going to want to make the tree line uneven on the top, because obviously not all trees are the same size. Alright, so after I was done with the tree line, I took some water and a little bit of black paint and basically feathered out the underneath, and that's going to create the shadow of the tree line. Alright, so with the same small square brush, we're going to go in with the black again, and this time we're going to be working on the grasses that are going to be in the foreground. So you'll just want a little bit, and you'll want to create the stalk first, like that. And we're just gonna feather it out because those are where the seeds are. Like that. And you're gonna create a lot of those along the bottom. In between each grass, I'm gonna fill it in lightly with black, just because if you've ever seen this grass in person, it's pretty dense. Now that we have finished this grass, we're gonna go in and make a different type of grass. And we're gonna start from the middle. We're gonna use the smaller square brush again and still use black. And we're just gonna do upstrokes, not too high. And we want all different sizes as well. So just like this. Okay, so once that's all done, we're gonna still use black, and we're just gonna go in and create another grassy area, but in the water, more out here. So we're just gonna do a nice line. And because it's further away, the grass will be smaller. Alright, so as you can see, I carried it out, and made it smaller as I went closer inward, and then I did the same thing to the bottom as we did with the horizon, just fading it out a little bit. Okay, now that we're done with that, I'm still going to use the fine tip brush, and I'm going to create a muskrat mound. Okay, so basically I took the black and I made a bunch of hashtag marks and stick lines to make them all into one little mound. And then now I'm going to do the same thing as we did to the horizon and just blend out the bottom. Okay, and then on top of the mound, usually you'll find a duck or a great blue heron or an eagle. So you can choose not to put anything on top, but I'm gonna try and do a great blue heron. Okay, so before I started my great blue heron, I wanted to sketch it out just to make sure I was getting it right. And so now I will go in, start from the beak, make it really thin. Always make it smaller, because remember, if you make something too big, you can't really go back. Alright, and there you have it. I'm here at one of the wetland areas here on the refuge that looks similar to the one you painted, including marsh grasses, a muskrat mound, and maybe a great blue heron or a bird of your choice. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed painting as much as I did. We want to see your completed artwork, so please share those pictures with us on our Facebook. And remember, if you choose to visit Ottawa National Wildlife Refuge, please adhere to CDC guidelines and stay 6 feet apart from other visitors. Thank you.